The big Thursday night stream. Thursday night Titans here on the Warren Hayes channel. I am the Titan Warrenivicus. No, scratch all that. Let cut. Do this again. How's everybody doing? How are you? Welcome to the big Thursday night stream. The week is almost over, folks. Did I mute my phone? I did. The week is almost over, folks. Hope you had a good one. Hope you are. I hope you're in a part of the world where you're not constantly breathing in smoke. I know it's been rough. We had it bad here in ye old Quebec City. We had it rough 2 days ago. We had 2 days ago, the sky was orange and you'd step outside and it smelled like you were in a bonfire. It was really it was really strange. And it was raining on top of that. So it just made everything like completely surreal. You're like, what the hell is going on? But from what I understand today, the Midwest is eating it. So is New England. Doesn't sound like and it sounds like all these areas are getting in worse than we did. So hopefully you're all, I don't know, closing your windows, turning on your air filters if you have any. They might start becoming like, you know, a necessity as opposed to like a luxury. Are air filters a luxury? Well, not a luxury, but you know, like something extra, you know, that you just buy. I guess a luxury, I guess. And most importantly, hope you're staying all hydrated and whatnot. Warren, do you have any thoughts on the World Cup? No. I really have. I haven't been watching it, even when Canada was still in. You know, it's like, you know, just followed it from quite afar. If anything, you know, it's my blue sky timeline, which had been keeping me up to date. You know, blue sky has become a it's become a sports app, because now you can actually follow the sports in real time, just like you know, the other plays. But now it's officially a sports app. It's not just for pro wrestling. Not just for pro wrestling, folks. Regardless of what you've heard or what you believe. No, it's been a nice couple of days. I'm very excited for you know, I'm very excited for the rest of the summer to kick in. I will be soon officially on vacation from my shoot job, so that's always something nice. You know, you take a break, you know, you recharge your batteries, you come back stronger, bigger, faster, than ever. And in the meantime, there's going to be the G1. So that's something that's something I'm looking forward to. It's starting back this weekend. So that's good stuff. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I don't know how much there is necessarily to talk about right now. Like I'm trying to think of, you know, like little details, little things that popped up, you know, before we get into the pro wrestling, you know, in and about itself. But I don't, you know, has there been anything really compelling, anything that I absolutely enjoy and whatnot? And oh well, listen, hey, okay, how about this? I purchased and completed a video game called The Incident at Galley House. Tremendous game. If you are familiar with the browser, the free browser based text game, Type Help. That it's essentially that game, but sort of reimagined, fully voiced cast, and just a tremendous amount of fun. A detective game is what it is essentially. It's one of these that you have to point to your temple and it's like, I got to figure this out. I'm using my noodle here. So you know, and you search for clues and what, and it's one of these awesome, like legitimately awesome detective games where you're just dropped into a situation and you got to kind of figure it out all by yourself. And you know, the clues are all there. They're all there in everything, that every scene that's presented for you. You just have to be paying attention to find them. You know, it's a game you can find yourself being stuck in, but it's tremendous. Like it legitimately is tremendous. And you know, the gimmick is great. You know, it's one of these games, you know, that's inspired by Obra Dinn, you know, and the root trees, those types of deduction thinking games, detective games, just tremendous stuff. I love the game so much. And then for people like me who did play Type Help, there's extra content here that adds a little more context into what's going on a more meta level, and it was fantastic. Like it's legitimately fantastic, and I cannot recommend it enough. It was released earlier this week. The Incident at Galley House is what it's called. Honestly, I blew through it because I was aware of the game mechanic, and you know, there's certain things that I remembered from when I played Type Help, so you know that helped things out quite a bit. But, you know, there's a couple of things also where I'm like, oh, wait a second. And then the new content, like, oh, this is all new. This is cool. It's really great. It's a fantastic. If you like that type of game where your cognitive abilities are challenged, this is the game for you. It is the game for you. Meggy O'Cannon, nice to see you, my friend. Welcome to the chat, you member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. It is a pleasure to have you with us hanging out tonight. As the usuals are taking their sweet time coming in tonight. Just taking their sweet time. Which is fine. Everyone has lives, right? I don't expect everyone to just drop everything, right? Or do I? Or maybe I do. Maybe I do. Yeah, we've got some stuff to cover tonight, so I think we'll be diving into the pro wrestling stuff sooner than later. But what about our typical little housekeeping items? Well, the Mr. Warren Hayes show was released yesterday, and it is, of course, since the past couple of weeks, it is now exclusively available on podcast platforms in audio form. It is no longer something that will just show up on YouTube. No, you got to dig for it now. So the Mr. Warren Hayes show available right now on your favorite podcast application. Earlier today, the Dynamite review was released. My Dynamite review was released. I mean, I'm sure there were others, but mine is the one that we want to concern ourselves with. So that's available right now, both on YouTube and on audio as well. A show that annoyed me. That's it. That's your spoiler text to get into it. That's your little teaser. That's your little, here's the breadcrumb. It annoyed me, if you haven't listened to it already. Well, you're sitting there, you're going, why, Warren? Why? Why did today's Dynamite, last night's Dynamite annoy you? Well, that's it. This is what a teaser's for. I'm not going to give you the answer. I'm going to give you just enough stuff for you to go listen to it later. Got to explain everything to these people. He says to the fictional person he made up in his brain. So that's available right now. And the exciting news is that we are going right into the daily G1 36 coverage starting up again this Saturday. We got a nice big break from the start in Chicago last week. So the first episode of the coverage is already up. So, you have time to catch up and refresh your memory. Maybe you're like, oh, gee whiz, it's been not 7, but 5 days since that show. 6 days. I need a refresher. Oh, my thing is right there. My thing is right there. You go listen to it. That also is available on YouTube and on podcast format. So we'll be back on that, and then now it's gonna start for real. Now we're gonna be like every day there's gonna be like Warren Hayes content. You're gonna be like, I can't stand this guy. Hope you stick around. I'm planning on having it be a good time, despite whatever New Japan throws at us. So that's the big news. That's the stuff. That's what's going on in the world of Warren Hayes as far as the online shenanigans go. DJ Convoy is here along with Ms. Convoy as well. It's been a while, Ms. Convoy. It's very nice to see you again. Welcome. It's nice to see you, DJ Convoy, as well, who is also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. And also, yum to you. It's funny you should say that, because 3 days ago I watched one of these YouTube videos going over the history of the Ewoks, and not just like, oh, this is what they did in The Empire Strikes Back, not The Empire Strikes Back, Jesus Christ, in the Return of the Jedi. No, it's like, no, they go over the entire history of the Ewoks and what they, what they're capable of, and and so on and so forth. And are they force sensitive? And we've never there's only been like one Ewok Jedi. And then explaining to us like why, all these things that are such, throwaway details in the movies, but then like all of these things were like thoroughly explained and broken down in an extra Star Wars lore, like C-3PO, why they venerated him, why they treated him like a god. It's because the gods of the Ewoks are actually like the god of the Ewoks is like it's like a light bringer. It's like a golden idol type of thing. So when they saw C-3PO, but yet like to get the full understanding, you need to get all the extra source material. But the video did make me think about one thing that I had never, ever, ever thought of. That I have ever thought of. Ewoks will eat humans. Like, they were ready to cook and eat Leia and Luke. And was Han there too? I think Han was there too, right? I know Leia and Luke were there. Well, Leia was all princessed up. And isn't it interesting that they were able to give her, like, you know, forest clothes, but like she's 2.5 times the size they all are. Isn't that interesting that they had that handy anyway? But then the thing is that, see, we're saying they were sacrifices, but not necessarily food. But here's the thing: in the actual canon stuff that exists in the periphery, it is indicated. It is sort of mentioned, heavily implied, that the Ewoks will eat just about anything with flesh. So, you know, the humans could have been eaten. Like, you know, when they're celebrating at the end and they made like a drum made out of stormtrooper helmets, kind of makes you wonder the fuck they did with the stormtroopers. I'm just saying. So there you go. The Ewoks diatribe for here. Did they mention Tebow? There's no Ewoks. There's no history of Ewoks without Tebow. No, wait. He was wasn't he a quarterback for the Denver Broncos? Like Tebow, they probably mentioned, like, I more or less pay attention to the names of the characters that I don't know. It sort of goes in one ear, then right out the other. But when they start talking about, like, you know, culture and lore and stuff like that, and I'm like, oh, this is very interesting. This is all very interesting. Yeah, I guess never underestimate the power of Ewokian seamstresses. Sports and Think Shows. How you doing, Carlos? It is nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. All right, should we kick this off? It's Thursday after all. I think we should kick it off. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Whether it's Thursday or, you know, whatever, it doesn't matter. We're still going to be kicking off, and we're still going to be kicking it off the right way.
How you doing, everybody? I'm Jacques Moliere. Just let me tell you a little bit about myself.
Okay, Jacques.
I'm Chuck Master, and I represent NWA, Mountain State Wrestling.
Hoo-yah! Right there, Patrick. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Patrick, also a member of the Mr. Warren Hay Show channel. I heard Jacques audition for the role of a giant Ewok. That's impossible. Not hairy enough. Look at this guy. It'll be better for here. I mean, look at this guy. That's not, there's not enough hair there to sustain any Ewokness. Now he probably, oh, Warren, he shaves his head. Why do you think he shaves his head? I mean, look, let's be honest. Why is Jacques shaving his head? He's just, you know, he's just taking control of the inevitable here. You know, when we saw him with his family winning the trip to Disneyland or Disney World, he didn't necessarily have all that much hair either. Now he could be one of those things with the big tusks. You know, one of the things that attacks Luke, Obi-Wan in the cantina, and Obi-Wan slices its hand off. A giant bald Ewok. Nice to see you, Rory Starks. Welcome. You know what's under the suit? I heard in high school Jacques' nickname was the Rug. Yuck. Yuck. Blech. Didn't need all of that now. Here's our lovely docket. It's the loveliest docket you'll ever see. I worked hard on this docket. It's a beautiful docket. You want to snuggle up to it and kiss it. Before we get into any real news, right now I am in catch-up mode, essentially. I'm catching up on things. I'm catching up on the TNA Dark Side of the Ring stuff, and I'm finishing up. I'm starting up episode 2. Come to think of it, and at this point, the only comment or analysis that I have so far is that we needed some kind of credible voice to counteract all of these carnies who are just saying all sorts of bullshit. And you can tell. You can absolutely tell. Anyway, that's where I'm at right now. I think it's very interesting, but if you need the perspective of someone who actually watched TNA from 2004 to 2010, do I have a website for you? Is it TNA Mecca? Oh, you wrote 7,000 words about that. Holy smokes. Okay. That's commitment. Jesus Christ. Anyway, so that's it. So I'm getting closer and closer to when Eric Bischoff comes in, and apparently he's extremely smug and very punchable, and I'm already super annoyed. Just thinking about it makes me very, very upset. And then I started watching today Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I was watching it a little distractedly during work, having it on a second. But I started up, maybe got 15, 20 minutes into it. And I think what I've committed myself to do, this in my brain at the very least, I think the first episode of Mayhem, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to watch it properly, and I'm going to provide a review. But I think the review, if I get around to doing it, is going to consist of, well, I don't know why anyone should watch this, because it's just like every other American professional wrestling outfit out there, because that's how it feels and looks right now. Like, even down to Scott D'Amore coming out to kick off the show. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm at a point where all I want is for wrestling promotions to do things differently. And I don't think it's that hard. I don't think it's that difficult of an ask. But you would really have expected a place, hang on, let me say that again. I can't say you would have expected that from MLP because Scott D'Amore is running it. Not trying to knock Scott here. It's just, what else would you expect? But nonetheless, it's like, it's just, it's another low budget WWE. So I don't know why anyone would watch it, especially when WWE already has low budget WWE. I don't know why. I don't know what the appeal is. So, but I think what I'm going to do, legitimately, is settle in and just watch the whole thing, come back, do a review, and that will probably be the last that I'll be covering MLP for a while, until I start hearing that, things are excellent, the matches are top notch and whatnot. Look, I didn't watch the main event, which is Stu Grayson versus Jonathan Gresham, and maybe it's excellent, and I'm not going to poo-poo or complain about there being another place for pro wrestlers to go and make a living, go make a little money. I don't have an issue with that either. Those are not issues to me. My issue is, am I entertained? And or am I just watching reheated stuff that everyone else does? You know, reheat of a reheat. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So I'll probably review it over the next couple of days. You'll probably see a review drop in early access for members. Of course, members of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel usually get all of my review stuff ahead of time so that they can enjoy it before all of the freeloaders can. I have a distinct, unless this show completely turns around, I really have a feeling like I'm going to watch this episode of Mayhem and that'll be that for a while, for not forever, but for a while. And I will do my best to be as concise as possible. There you go. So that's what I've been. So from a wrestling perspective, that's what's been going on. Catching up on the Dark Side of the Ring, TNA stuff, and the MLP Mayhem. The Corey, nice to see you, Corey. Welcome to the chat. Very nice to see you again. You want to take a look real quick at this card that AEW is putting together called Redemption, which is going to be on July 26, 2026, of course, over in just down the road here in Montreal. Boy, this card came together real quick last night, don't you think? Just like, woo, wham bam, wham bam, bing bang boom, slip slap, sock pow. Next thing you know, you've got 7 matches on your show. When you were coming into the when you started off the evening yesterday with only one show, you went and you added 5. Cajun Cope versus the Death Riders duo of Claudio Castagnoli and Pac for the AEW World Tag Team titles. Tommaso Ciampa and the Painmaker, Chris Jericho, in a pain-making match. There's something you can't take this seriously, right? You can't take the Painmaker stuff seriously in 2026, right? The dopey makeup, the hat, and he's probably going to have his vest with the spikes on it and all that, and when he turned his head, and stared into the camera and put his hat on, I was like, oh, this is there's something intrinsically funny about this. Where Chris Jericho still thinks like he's got this persona, like Kishin Liger, right? That he pulls out once in a while, or the demon, that he pulls out once in a while, and that's his hardcore persona, right? Oh my God, this is so funny. Extremely funny. But, I am, as opposed to many people, I am not completely, I'm not completely done with Chris Jericho, and especially after matches like he had last week against Tommaso Ciampa, in which Chris Jericho was extremely good. He was terrific in that match last week. So I'm like, I can't entirely hand wave it and say this is going to stink. Plus, you've got Tommaso Ciampa in there, and you can tell that Tommaso Ciampa is a guy right now who has something to prove. Like, he's on a mission to show that he belongs in the conversations of all of these great wrestling matches and whatnot. And he sees himself in a higher spot than he is in AEW. Look, I mean, he's doing media for Boston and he's putting himself over. He says, look, there's going to be some big things for my psycho killer gimmick coming up. And I'm like, all right, I'm all into it because, look, you can tell this guy has something to prove. To whom? To himself? To us? The fans? To his boss? I don't know. Whatever it is. But you feel like Ciampa feels like a wrestler that he's got something to prove. And that's tremendous. Because I think then the fans win. Because you got a guy who's ready to go out there and bust ass every time. And that is a good thing. Anyway, we'll see how all this develops over the next week or so. Because the pay-per-view is in 10 days. I don't know if everyone sort of wrapped their head around this. The pay-per-view is in 10 days. Mark Davis versus Andrade Alidolo for the national title. I like that. Should be fun. Kyle Fletcher versus Bandito for the international title. That's pretty rad. That should be a lot of fun. Very excited about that. The first match that was booked for this show, Tekla versus Willow Nightingale for the women's world title, turning into one of the most anticipated matches on the card, I would say. This should be tremendous, and also I think we should all expect Willow Nightingale to win it. And then Kevin Knight will be challenging Kenny Omega for the AEW World Title. That was all made. That was made last night in a terrific promo segment driven by the best bout machine, who for a second was like the best mic machine. He was great last night. Kenny was absolutely great. Not just like good for Kenny, which is a lot of times the grade, the level in which we grade him on. He was good. He was very good. Tremendous promo. And they, they had to do it. They had to get to it like lickety split because we've only got 2 weeks for this, right? Anyway, I talk about it a lot on the less than 2 weeks. I talk about it a lot on the review, the AEW Dynamite review, available now if you want to watch that. Well, not now if you're listening to the live stream. Just do it later. Finish this and then go off. The abundance of stuff that had to be put over, that had to be set up, I should say, for the pay-per-view, sort of turned me off a little bit, kind of annoyed me. I think, that was the theme of my, when I said it, right? Earlier on and then on stream, the review kind of, not the review, but Dynamite kind of annoyed me because of a bunch of stuff. And mostly it was all the segments and the backstage promos to a backstage interview to a vignette to a backstage interview. And I'm like, all sequentially. And I was like, oh my God, can we, like, this is too much type of thing. But I also understood, where the position they were in, where they just had to go. They had to start making as many matches as they could. That being said, I think the Kenny Omega Will Ospreay stuff was very good. The Kenny Omega Kevin Knight stuff was very good. I think everything was set up tremendously well. There was some good feeling to it. Felt authentic. I was excited about it. Made me excited about it. Made me excited about the idea of AEW trying out a young, up and coming top guy into a top guy spot. Look, if anything, this has to demonstrate proof positive just how much AEW, Tony Khan, like Kevin Knight, how much they're ready to get behind him and go, yeah, this guy is going to be a player for our company. I mean, we always knew this was the thing, but the heel turn is still rather fresh. And now we're like, yeah, okay, let's push him into the into the top circle of guys that these young guys who are who are cracking through the ceiling, not unlike Kyle Fletcher last year with Hangman. And you got to appreciate a promotion that does that. You need to put over your young guys. New, fresh, exciting talent. That's usually how it goes. Anyway, this all came together so quickly. Like lickety split fast. And we have a 6-match card. So we've got 4 more matches left. We've got 4 more matches to go. That's not counting the pre-show. On the pre-show, we're going to be paying homage to the Rougeaus, the Rougeau family. That'll be interesting. And I'll be there for your on-location reports. Someone on when I said that I was going to be at Redemption, I keep wanting to say Revolution. That's a me problem, but also an AEW problem. Someone asked me on Blue Sky Head, did you ever think about getting into the show as media? And I was like, no. No. Or did you ever try? This was the question. Not did you ever think of. Did you ever try? I'm like, no. No, because when I go to a live show, I just want to have fun. I'm not sitting there with my arms crossed being Mr. Critic. I'm into it. I'm having fun. There's the live experience. There's the wrestlers in front of you. There's, I want to have fun. I want to get to the venue. I want to find my seat. I want to run into people that I haven't seen in a while. I want to go to concessions. I want to do the live. I don't want to work is what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get there and work. Last year, people said, "Oh, Warren, are you going to vlog your trip to Arlington for All In?" I was like, no, that sounds like work. No, I want to go there and I want to go there and enjoy myself. So no, I've never. To me, I've done it once to go to an event as media, which was the Empower show, the NWA Empower show from a few years ago. And it was nice. Got to interview a bunch of people. Was one of the only people that got to interview Kylie Rae at the time. This was in that weird period where she was not doing much media, and I actually had to go through a handler to talk to get her to accept. And she accepted, and there was a bunch of other people who were just shut down and said no, but she was okay with me. And we I enjoyed myself, but it felt like work. I'm just there, and then all the other media personalities, influencers, they're all there, and they're networking, and they're working, and I'm like, I just want to say hello, want to hang out, want to laugh, want to have a good time. I don't want to have the burden of having to create something out of this. I'm going to create something regardless, which is going to be my Redemption review the next day. That's going to be inevitable, right? It's just on location. Leave me alone with the work stuff. I don't want to work when I go to a show. I want to enjoy myself. I want to have fun. So why was I talking about that? Anyway, it doesn't matter. We're going to see what you all are talking about. Jericho sometimes has me wondering if I'm laughing with him or at him. And I think the Painmaker situation is one of those. It's a low effort gimmick. Yes. But I remember, wasn't the first time he pulled it out, wasn't it against Naito when Jericho was in between New Japan and in between WWE and AEW, right? And he went to New Japan and he was fighting Naito, Wasn't that when he pulled out the painmaker? It's kind of a blur to me. When Naito was international champion, intercontinental champion, throwing the white belt around because he didn't give a shit about it. I hope Jericho makes a YouTube mini documentary about finding his inner painmaker. It's just him reading the internet, making fun of him, and growing more enraged. YouTube video, or maybe all he needs is a reel, a TikTok. I loved TNA as a kid, and the state of the promotion is genuinely depressing. How you doing, big man dogs? Welcome to the chat. It's Willow's time. I agree. I'm telling you, sometimes folks are a little short-sighted, right? Because they're like, can't wait for Willow to come back and go back after the TBS title. I'm like, why would you want Willow to go back after the TBS title? Why wouldn't you want Willow to go to the, it's like, come on. She should be in this upper crust of women in AEW. She should have been there for a while back. You got to stop pussyfooting around here. I think Kenny did a good job at making the match make sense, as much as I don't know if I'm sold on it as a pay-per-view main event. I agree. I don't think this is, we haven't cracked 6,000 people in the Bell Center yet for the pay-per-view. And I don't think this is the match that puts it over, quite frankly. Like, this is not it's not a drawing main event. Travis, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Also a member of the channel. It'd be nice if the main event felt 1% unpredictable. Sometimes wrestling is about the journey and not the destination, and this is one of those. I don't know. I'm legitimately looking forward to see how Kevin Knight handles this, being in the ring with one of the greatest of all time, and then in a main event spot. Let's watch some wrestling. Nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Kind of feel like Knight just needs more mic time to really round out his game, but he's totally going to get there. Oh, yeah. Yes, he improves every time. I thought his little snipes at the end after Kenny did his intervention I thought his little snipes there were tremendous. He didn't need all that much, just a few key phrases, and it worked. But yeah, he'll get there. I'm confident he'll get there. Mr. Warren Hayes, the Okada of wrestling journalism. He knows when to dial it in. Call me the Okada of anything. Fletcher vs. Hangman had the Cope and Cage stuff helping out, which, as polarizing as it was, at least helped get less locked in fans interested. I agree. Anyway, that's where we're standing right now. This is where we're at right now for the show, which is in 10 days. I mean, look, there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do because look, it's a transitionary pay-per-view. Let's all be honest here. It's a transitionary pay-per-view. They added, I think what the thing here is that for the longest time, at least when this show was announced, the main event was supposed to be MJF versus Kenny Omega. But the show was pushed, not the show, but the Kenny MJF match was pushed onto TV. And then suddenly all of this is much more lackluster because of the expectations. But it was supposed to be Kenny and Max in the main event with Kenny winning the title. That was the that was the story, and that would have carried this pay-per-view. Now you don't have much to carry it. They'll be just like Mr. Antok said in the chat. Welcome, by the way. This is a prelude to All In. They'll be setting up some stories. They'll be making sure that everything is in its right place and be ready to go. But we're going to be previewing next Thursday. We're going to be previewing the whole show. We're going to be previewing the whole show next week. So be there. No, I don't want to talk about that just yet. We're going to do this first. We're going to talk about Shota Umino getting knocked out of the G1. This happened. This was announced yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. We're going to read this article off the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Just one night into the tournament, New Japan Pro Wrestling's G1 Climax has been dealt a big blow. The promotion announced on Wednesday that due to a concussion, Shota Umino has been removed from the G1 and will forfeit all of his remaining matches. Umino began the tournament with a loss to Zack Sabre Jr. in Chicago this past weekend. He still had 8 B block matches left, and all of those opponents will automatically receive 2 points. New Japan wrote the following. On July 11, during his match with Zack Sabre Jr. in Chicago, Shota Umino displayed symptoms of a concussion. After careful consultation, the decision has been made by medical staff to remove Umino from the remainder of the Climax 36. Each of Umino's remaining tournament matches will be deemed forfeits, with his scheduled opponents receiving 2 points by default. We all said all this. That'll be fine. And then we've got further changes and whatnot. So that's long and short of it. So he's out, and for a minute there was like, okay, well, you could still replace him, but they're not replacing him. They're not even replacing Shota Umino. He's just out of the tournament, and everyone gets 2 points in A block. It was an A block, right? Yes, he was an A block. So there you go. Dunzo this year, and I agree with chat. It kind of sucks. It kind of sucks because I really feel like Shota has been on a little bit of a redemption tour as far as his image goes. I think he's been, I think he's been working harder. I think he's been picking things up more. I think he's becoming, he was becoming much more of a well-rounded wrestler. Even though there were still imperfections to his game, one namely being his crowd connection, his charisma overall. I think there was, arrows were pointing up in the case of his career. Now, all of this being said, he has to sit the rest out, and it really, really does suck. I've seen people say, oh my God, it must have been a really bad concussion, poor guy. And maybe it is, right? But I also know that New Japan tends to go with an overabundance of caution in these types of situations as well, where they're going to use, they're going to be a lot stricter on clearing wrestlers who have been hurt, particularly with concussions. New Japan goes, like I said, with the overabundance of caution technique, as opposed to just like, oh well, you got your bell rung, kid. Go back out there. So whatever happened, I'm not saying that I'm not saying that the concussion isn't as bad as a lot of people speculated it to be. I'm not saying that it's really bad. All I'm saying is that New Japan has a tendency to just be overprotective on that front. So it is what it is. There's been incidents with head trauma in this company. I don't know if you've heard. So Shota being out though is that's significant. Like, it's a significant loss to the tournament, because quite possibly I would say for most folks, that at the very least that I've spoken to, most people had Shota picked as their winner of the tournament this year. Most people had already circled him as being the guy who was going to make it to Wrestle Kingdom to fight for the world champion, not the world championship, the heavyweight championship. And I would have assumed that he would have been if he wouldn't have been the guy who wins, he would have been absolutely a guy that would have made it to the finals. Like at the very least, he's a guy that would have just flown right into the final match. And you know, at the very least he loses. Best scenario, he wins. So I don't know. You know, this is a setup that I'm going to be observing during my own coverage of the G1, wondering, well, with the reshuffle that is inevitably going to happen, because now Gato has to pick someone else. Like look, 85% sure that Gato has to pick someone else. I'm so convinced that this was the guy who was going to win this year. I'm so incredibly convinced with the way they've been booking him, with the way that he's been presented. Very, very close to being the guy to win the G1 this year. Regardless, look, there's a huge reshuffle that needs to happen. And I'm going to keep an eye on all of this, seeing how things play out, and try to see, maybe this is probably a guy who is benefiting from the Umino absence, right? Who's going to be number 1 and number 2 out of A block? We're going to find out. He was an A block, right? Here I am, the guy doing the coverage. I'm the guy doing the coverage, and I can't even remember what block he's in. Let me just make sure here. There's my G1 notes here. And no, he wasn't. He was in B block. Excuse me. I've been talking about A block, but he was in B block, right? And B block was already like the less interesting block between the two. I feel like A block has the potential to go harder than B block. And now that Umino is gone, well, I don't know. Will that tighten things up and make it more interesting, or will it make it less interesting? I guess that depends on you. Chad has mentioned him. I think like a guy like Yuya Uemura was probably a safe choice as well to be like number 1 or number 2. I would never discount them pushing Ren Narita as they would do Evil in a lot of years, just to make it, just to be an accursed heel, to make it to, the semifinals. I wouldn't, and I still wouldn't put it past them to push Narita. Like in a situation, I'll tell you one thing, Chad. In a situation where we would end up that out of B block, it's Yuya Uemura and Ren Narita who make it to the semifinals, I would, with a straight face, sit behind this microphone and tell you, probably Uemura he's the guy who took Umino's place, and they probably wanted to go with Narita the whole time. That I would have no problem believing. If Narita makes it to the semis, that was the plan all along. It'll be who the other guy goes in lieu of Umino, right? Because if you look at the rest of the fold here, right? You've got Driller Maloney. I love Dan Maloney. It's not going to be him. Gabe Kidd. I love Gabe Kidd as well. I think he's tremendous. But I think that, he's a guy who's going to be in contention to the very last second, I feel. But he's already a champion. The AEW stuff, I think he's not going to make it to the semis. I wouldn't say. Unless he's the guy, unless he's the heel who makes it instead of Ren Narita, right? Which is also possible. And it would be a better choice, right? Hinari's great, not a semifinalist. Narita, we just talked about him. Yumera, look, I love Yuya Yumera. I think the one thing that we don't talk enough about when it comes to that kid is how much chemistry. Geez, that was a struggle. How much chemistry he has with every single fucking person he wrestles with. There's some people you're like, oh, well, they didn't have the chemistry, and you can tell when two guys aren't quite getting along or whatnot. But Yuya never has that issue and has just these smooth, compelling matches every time. Are they 5-star classics every time? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that every time he wrestles with someone, it just clicks. He's just naturally smooth like that. So if they wanted to go with Yumera, I would be completely okay with that. And I think, honestly, it's probably the wisest choice. Zack Sabre Jr., I don't think we go back to that well. Asuka, no. I think Asuka is going to finish with a losing record anyway. Callum Newman could be a strong candidate as well. You can make an absolute, you can absolutely make a strong case for Callum Newman. But if you really wanted to be fucking bold, you go with Aaron Wolf. If you really wanted to do something unexpected, look, your G1 plans are out the door, regardless, right? Your G1 plans are out the door. And if you're Gedo and you want Shota Umino in the main event of Wrestle Kingdom, you're going to make it happen, G1 winner or not. It's just going to happen. You're going to find a way to make this happen. So whoever wins here will still have to deal with Shota Umino, I feel, at some point on the road to Wrestle Kingdom. So listen, if you want to make a big fucking bold statement here, and you're like, hey, the rookie gold judo gold medalist Aaron Wolf wins the G1 Climax 36 in his rookie year, first year into the tournament, first year in the company, first year in the tournament. Could do a lot worse. And I don't think it changes much when it comes to the A block, other than maybe the winner. But I don't think you're reshuffling the A block all that much. Ergo, Ryohei Oiwa is the guy. Look, have Oiwa win. Have Yumera and Oiwa at the end of the tournament, and then you finally fucking do something with Ryohei Oiwa, who is still the guy. He is that guy. And they're sitting on their hands with this kid. And he is fucking awesome. Why not? Why not? Why not? You're not. I'm so convinced. I'm so convinced that Shota was the guy. So convinced that at this point, now that you've been dealt this hand, you're like, let's just try stuff out. That's all there is to it. Anyway, look, it's a shame. It's a shame that Shota had to forfeit his matches, that he's injured, and I hope he's all right. I legitimately hope he gets back on his feet, and he probably will get back on his feet real soon, and he'll be He'll be back this fall wrestling for New Japan, and like I said, he'll probably just end back up, in a spot, a big main event spot for Wrestle Kingdom, because if that's what Gato wanted, that's what Gato's going to get. It's just as simple as that. So, I mean, yeah, a little bit of a reshuffle, a big time reshuffle, but it'll be very curious to see. It'll be very curious to see how things develop and how, who's falling into what spot or not. It'll be so interesting. It'll be it's doubly interesting. If anything, and this might sound a little callous, but, Shota getting kicked out of the tournament kind of makes things a little more unpredictable. Kind of makes things a little more interesting, if you ask me. I don't think it's as clear cut now as it was maybe just a week ago. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how all of this goes. Umera versus Ice in the final. Oh boy. Best of luck to Yuto Ice. Best of luck to him. I mean, the guy, his first match was with Great O'Khan, right? Right? If I'm not mistaken. If I remember correctly, his first match was with Great O'Khan. And Great O'Khan is like, I'm so done with the guy. Like I'm so completely done with him, because he's not giving in any more effort. He seems mentally checked out. I don't think he likes wrestling anymore. Not the way that he handles himself or wrestles or whatnot. This is a guy that's going through the motions. So, I didn't think their match was great, but I'm trying to give Yuto Ice some grace here, because his first match in the G1 was against a guy who has no interest, or seems to have no more interest in pro wrestling. So, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I know now there's a lot of people who are waiting around to see how this singles run will go for Yuto Ice. Will it be revelatory, or will it expose him? That's what a lot of people are. That's what a lot of people are wondering. So we'll see. Going back to Zack Sabre Jr.? No, I don't think so. No. They have the opportunity to try out some new guys. Enough's enough. It has to. If they do, I'm gonna flip a table. I'm gonna pull a table in front of this camera right here. I'm gonna put a table in the back here or something, and I'm gonna flip it. And it's, if they go back to Zack Sabre Jr. And I love Zack. That's not the problem. Put Sky Blue in as the replacement. Pedro the Fifth, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. I mean, that's what they did with Julia Hart and B. Priestley in Stardom, right? Send her over. Boy, that was a controversial pick. All these people wanted a lot of... no, I don't want to... There's a lot of people who wanted crossover between AEW Women and Stardom. And the reason why it never happened is because of Rossy Ogawa. And how do I know that? Well, because the minute Rossy Ogawa gets kicked out of his company, suddenly AEW and Stardom are working together, right? Anyway, so people have been wanting this for years, and it's happening, and it's making a significant amount of the fan base happy. But you know, there's a lot of Joshi types who are not excited and are like, look, you know, I just kind of want to watch the wrestlers in the promotion that I like. Don't necessarily want people from outside coming in. I don't know how much this is an AEW hate thing or not, but I don't know how much it is an AEW hate thing or not, because I think there's a lot of crossover between angry Puro fans and angry Joshi fans. I think they're doing the Predator meme when it comes to their hatred for AEW. Look, do I think Julia Sky is going to... Julia Sky. Do I think Julia Hart is going to tear it up in Stardom? No, absolutely not. She's probably going to be one of the least exciting performers on the roster, quite frankly, in the 5-star tournament. But I mean, it's not like B. Priestley was tearing it up either. You know, I saw people going, "Oh, it's such a downgrade for." I was like, have you seen B wrestle recently? I mean, she wasn't exactly Minami Toyota to begin with. You know, I was just like, no, all right. Now suddenly there's a defense force around B. Priestley because an AEW invader is coming in to. It is what it is. It is what it is. But look, if there's one thing that I do agree on, is that as far as, you know, candidates that you can send, that will be able to mix it up in Stardom, Julia is on the bottom half of that list. It's probably a couple of more you could have sent, right? But here's the dilemma that a booker like Tony Khan has to face. He's like, first of all, I have to sacrifice one of my talent for a few weeks. They won't be around at all for any shows. I've got the biggest show of the year coming up. I'm not going to send you Mercedes Moné. I'm not going to send you Willow Nightingale. I'm not even going to send you Athena. She's got shit to do. And who knows? Megan Bain? Fuck no. I need her here. You know what I mean? Like, all of these people are like, I'm not sending these people over. I can't. I need them here, first and foremost. And second of all, who do you send over to be comfortable in a losing position? There's also that. There's no one's going to bat an eye if Julia Hart has a losing record at the end of the 5-star. You'd probably think otherwise if it was Athena. Am I right? And that's a consideration that the booker has to put in as well. He's not going to send his champions, right? He's not going to send his champions. Probably someone like Mina Shirakawa was like, yuck. I don't want to do a fucking 5-star. That's why it's one of the reasons I left the company. It's not to do this shit anymore. You know, type of thing. And everyone keeps saying, well, Julia, you know, if she could work in Japan, she'll pick up some great reps. There you go. What are we all upset about? What are we all upset about? Who would have been this great Joshi wrestler? No, we already know. It's B. Priestley who was there, right? Who would have been the wrestler who would have jumped in to take B. Priestley's spot, which probably would have been a losing record, right? Let's be honest. B was probably going to end the 5-star with a losing record. Who's going to be the wrestler that they're going to bring in and drop there and let it? Like, you're not bringing in Sari or Iroha or Big Hash to take that spot because they're losing spots. The tournament's about to start. Taro Okada's not going to sit down and rework the whole tournament because suddenly it's like, oh yeah, Big Hash is coming in for the tournament. Yeah, I got to rethink everything. It's like, no, he just wants someone that he can slot in there that's going to be in B's spot and take whatever losses was supposed to be to take it. It doesn't matter. Like, that's the logic of it. And it makes perfect sense to me. So Tony Khan as a booker goes, well, how about Julia? And I can understand the Joshi fans, the Stardom fans. You're like, listen, we are not developmental for American wrestlers. I understand that. I really do. And no one is asking that either. It's just the default stance is that, typically speaking, a lazy North American wrestler will go to Japan and will get kicked in the mouth a couple of times and then come back and go, hey, you know what? I'm good here. It's kind of good here. Let's see what, I picked up a few things here, and then we'll start kicking other people in the mouth. I understand the gripes. I just think they come from a place of passion, which is fine. Wrestling should make you feel things, and that's okay. But when you start to break it down rationally, it's, Taro Okada, he could have reached out to any other independent. He could have brought in someone from Sendai Girls. I agree. He could have brought someone in from Marvelous. I agree. But here's the thing. He didn't. He decided to call his new pal, Tony Khan, who he just met like a couple of months ago at the Forbidden Door. It was like, Tony, I got a spot open for one of your girls. Whoever you want to send. Tony's like, sweet. I've got someone. I've got some people here. Sure, I can send someone your way. I think it's fine. All of this is fine. It's fine. And good for Julia. And I'm gonna say good for Julia, but I swear to God, whatever she does pick up, whatever she absorbs, it better pay dividends there in North America. Otherwise, it's just like, anyway, what a tangent here. We're talking about the G1. We're talking about Shota Umino, and we're here talking about Julia Hart. Do you think? I'll call you Abdua. How about that? Welcome to the chat. Do you think Takeshita's got a chance like what happened last year? No, I don't. I am not even confident. Let me scratch that. I think I'm fairly confident he's going to make it to the semis. But I don't know. But he's not winning the tournament this year. I really don't think so. One silver lining is that the hierarchy is so flat that Umino getting injured isn't as big of a disaster as it could be. That's a great fucking point, big man. That's a great point. It's like everyone has been on the same level for so long together that it's just like swap in, swap out. Maybe this has been the strategy all along. Going with Wolf is far too interesting. Good, a booking choice for Ghetto. He only does interesting. Bad. I know. Like I said, if they really wanted to do something fucking bold, that's what you do. I'd like Wolf to at least make the semis as long as he keeps having solid matches. I mean, if we look at the roster again, right? Don't discount Narita, I swear. Callum Newman, Yumera, Gabe Kidd. Like, those four people are very credible potential semifinal advancers. Look, you want to throw Zack Sabre Jr. in there? That's 5. So technically, like, there's 6 guys if you throw in Aaron Wolf that you could go like, Because Could be something here. There's a surprising amount of Joshi fans who don't watch AEW. Oh, it's not that surprising. It doesn't surprise me. Is Julia Hart going to be bad? Yes. How do we know? Because she always is. The post House of Black stuff for Julia has not been great, right? Like, she really was on the uptick of something when she was TBS champion, and she was doing things with Brody King. Remember that? Like, that was cool. Never mind Malachi Black, but that whole period was very beneficial for her. And now she's kind of regressed. Reject Stardom partnership, embrace TJPW. I guess. Another issue is Tony thinks AEW fans care if his wrestlers lose in other promotions that they don't watch. The thing is that the people online care, and Tony is online. Kristen Ashley, nice to see you, darling. Welcome to the chat. It is lovely, 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 lovely to see you. She's also a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. I mean, people do care about wins and losses. That isn't a TK problem. That's just reality. But the thing is that promotions that the caveat being, these are promotions that people don't watch. So, I understand I understand what you're both saying. I want Tickler to win the Cinderella and have to wear a dress. Oh, that ship is past, brother. That ship is past. Julia learned burning hammer. Wouldn't that be awesome though? And she comes back and she starts doing Kawada kicks. She starts doing the burning hammer. And all of her German suplexes have that extra angle onto the neck, Just because becomes completely crazy. Starts throwing lariats like Akiyama. All right. The rise and fall of Julia Hart has spawned an obscene amount of irrational Julia Hart fans. Same with Shida and Britt. I get, I don't know if, no, I think I see what you mean. Yeah, okay, I agree. The fact that people don't watch it, the people don't watch it makes it worse, not better in terms of wins and losses. I agree. Britt and Deanna were some of the freshest faced wrestlers who went to Stardom for a stint. What's the difference? I think Deanna's a better wrestler. I think Deanna always had like better fundamentals. Look, we'll see. Look, we'll just see what happens, right? The point is that I'm not upset that Julia is there, and and rationally, there's no reason to be upset. She's going to be a lost post for the tournament in her block, in her league. Her block, she's going to be a lost post there. She's going to take B's spot, and B was going to be a lost post, and that'll be fine. And she'll come back, and it'll be fine. And I don't know what I don't know what people are so incredibly upset about. That's all there is. Motown Slim, nice to see you, brother. Welcome to the chat. Also happens to be a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show channel. So anyway, to wrap this Shota Umino segment up. So Shota, all in all, we'll have to see how this all works out. We wish him the best. Hope he gets back on his feet soon. But we'll see. I think we'll see very quickly how his absence is going to impact the rest of his block. It'll be very interesting to observe and see who moves forward in block B and who gets the rub out of him being gone. And if you want the full thoughts and analysis on that, of course, day one. Well, yes, I was there since day one. Daily coverage of the G1 Climax 36 has already started. Started last weekend with the Chicago show. Week break. Everything starts back on Saturday. We're going, baby, for the next 15 shows. Daily coverage. I will be there covering it for me, for you, for all of humanity. Why? Because I love you. I love you all. You do it for the love. All right. Hope everyone's having a nice time. Are you enjoying yourselves? Are you having a nice time here tonight, chat? Hope you are. I'm having a nice time. If you're having a nice time, leave a like on this stream. That would be terrific. That would be very, very nice. So WWE today announced that Worlds Collide in Chicago is going to be going head-to-head with AEW All Out in Chicago. It's so crazy. And we're going to read this article from Okay, hang on a second. We've been through this before. I like Jason. We get along great. I cannot pronounce his last name, and I have it. He's written it to me like he's written how to pronounce it in a DM here that I got in Blue Sky, and I still haven't worked it out. It's still not part of my vernacular. So we're going to read this article from Jason Unpresser. I'll edit out the whole explanation. I'm going to edit out the whole explanation so that it sounds like I just smoothed that in. Like I've got I'm in complete control of his name here, Unpresser, spelled Unpraseuth. Somehow it's Unpresser. All right. September 26th will be a busy wrestling day for WWE and AEW fans. WWE announced dates for 14 upcoming shows, including Worlds Collide, which will be at the Allstate Arena in Chicago on September 26th. This is not only on the same day as AEW All Out, but also in the same city. All Out is scheduled to be at Now Arena with a 7 p.m. Eastern start time. This will be the second Worlds Collide event between WWE and AAA. Last year's event was headlined by Dominic Mysterio's win over El Hijo del Vikingo for the AAA Mega Championship. The event was streamed on YouTube. WWE's last event at the Allstate Arena was a July 6 Raw where CM Punk beat Sami Zayn for the Undisputed Championship. I don't know if you heard of that match. I don't know. It may have flown under your radar. There were 12,493 tickets distributed according to WrestleTix. The last AEW event at Now Arena was World's End last year, which distributed 8,968 tickets according, once again, to WrestleTix. This marked the second head-to-head between AEW and WWE shows, with a AAA event and NXT Heatwave scheduled to run against AEW All In on August 30th. Last month, NXT's Great American Bash Premium Live event went head-to-head against Forbidden Door. Fans will not only have to decide which show to watch on September 26th, but those in the Chicago area will also need to decide which show to attend. Tickets for Worlds Collide are scheduled to go on sale July 2024. Well, I guess we this is a perfect usage of the Grand Theft Auto shit, here we go again gif. Look, there's the only reason WWE is doing this, and you know, I do hope that most of you understand this, is not necessarily to hurt the business of AEW, because you know the Great American Bash that aired at the same time as Forbidden Door, you know, it did horrible numbers on the CW, right? The Great American Bash, we saw the viewership because they're on the CW, right? They're premium live events on cable TV. That's a you know, their show was, you know, was like, it was under 400,000 viewers total, right? It was like 300,000, 50 something like that. That's a terrible number. So despite the fact that Forbidden Door, according to Dave Meltzer, we talked about it, but if we just recap everything, according to Dave Meltzer, Forbidden Door is the AEW pay-per-view that performed the worst so far this year in regards to pay-per-view buys. It still did 145,000 on traditional. That's not counting Max and whatnot, if I remember correctly. So you know, there's still more. You know, it still did better than 145,000, and 145,000 is still very good. It's just like, it's been a very good year for AEW pay-per-view buys, and this just so happens to be the worst. It didn't do like 98,000 buys. It still did 145,000. But a lot of people, when they heard, oh, Forbidden Door did the worst amount of buys of the year for AEW, haha, WWE wins with their strategy. I don't think so, because you look at the numbers that Great American Bash did on the CW, and those were terrible numbers. So I don't think Great American Bash airing at the same time of Forbidden Door had any impact. So I don't think that they do this, they being WWE, to hurt the business. Maybe in this case a little more, since they're running the same city. I think that's a little more dubious. This is the most in your face. This is the more in your face. This is the most in your face tactic that they've used so far. Running the same city at the same time at the same time, we're not sure, but on the same date. So, and you know, Chicago is a lucha libre hotbed. They love the lucha libre over there. So there might be a significant amount of people who see the AAA and decide to head on over there. That's entirely possible. But I still don't think that the main strategy for this is to hurt the business of AEW. It's to make sure that AEW doesn't hold all the headlines for that weekend. That's exactly why they're doing it for All In, right? That's why they did the Goldberg retirement on All In weekend. Now that backfired on them because of how they handled the Goldberg retirement. So all of the headlines were about how shit the retirement actually was. That's a whole other discussion. That whole weekend backfired on WWE performance-wise, right? But nonetheless, they were able to captivate the attention of, you know, the websites and whatnot. All of these sites who feel beholden to put out WWE results as things go on because SEO and so on and so forth. that's just how it goes. So it won't be a weekend where it will be exclusively like All In or even for All Out. These won't be dates where it'll be exclusively just for AEW headlines. They're doing this because they want to capture the headlines. They don't want the conversation to be dominated by AEW. They want their social media presence to be the one that's spread around the most. That's what they want. They will not give up an ounce of mind share. It's just as simple as that. And they're going to be offering up the Worlds Collide show for free. I mean, unless they finally have someone who will air AAA, right? Unless they do have the media deal, this is going to be thrown up on YouTube. This is going to be offered for free on YouTube. So they're going to be banking on people watching this instead of spending, the $60 or whatever to watch it on pay-per-view. Or at the very least, to double fist it, right? Have one's on your laptop and the other one's on the big screen. Either way. But I think that, we have to change our perception when it comes to these strategies. When we look back at All In last year and how much of a disaster it was for all of their shows that they tried to counter program All In with, right? Nothing worked. And, it turned out to be a wash for WWE that weekend. Why is it then that they're doing this again, right? Why are they doing it again if it didn't work out last year? Why do they keep doing it? So what's the reason? Well, it can't be financial. It can't be financial at this point. They can do whatever they want with the CW at this point. They have, CW signed the deal. And as long as WWE fills out their contractual obligations, WWE doesn't care. And you can argue with in a very justified position too, that, well, the CW can't possibly be happy that the show that they bucketed out millions of dollars for, right, is being used as a tool just to sabotage a rival promotion without any consideration for the broadcaster as a partner. For the CW, in other words. You can absolutely argue that, and I'd say you are correct. But I would counter argue that WWE doesn't care. Because if the CW is not happy and they decide not to renew, TKO WWE is just going to shrug and they're going to, we'll go find another all-day sucker that'll pay us tens of millions of dollars for our developmental brand. They don't give a shit. They don't care. So what if they get an angry call from the president of the CW the next day? Like, what the fuck are you guys doing? WWE's like, oh, sorry, pal. Is this not working out for you? I mean, you would think that they'd be nicer to the CW in this type of circumstance because the CW decided to pick up NXT pay-per-views, PLEs, when no one else would, right? Remember, not that long ago, there was one, maybe two NXT pay-per-views that were given out for free on YouTube because the Peacock deal was up and no one had lined up to get it, right? No one had lined up to sign the media deal. You'd think they'd be a little cooler to their CW partner, like, hey, thank you so much. Let's give maximum effort. They don't give a shit. And what's awful, like on top of that, is that they don't give a shit with their developmental talent, with the people that they are trying allegedly to train into becoming the next generation of WWE superstars that are supposed to be groomed for the main roster. And these people are given these spots, these storylines, and they want to go out there and perform and razzle dazzle and get gift and whatnot. And it's like, nah, we don't care. We really don't care about you guys. You're just NXT, AAA. These are tools in our arsenal that we use to just fuck with AEW. But they don't care about their talent. If they cared about their talent in either of these promotions, they wouldn't be doing shit like this. They would be making sure that these promotions got premium spots where the show, everyone who works on it, everyone who produces it, the talent that works on it, that everyone has an opportunity to shine. But they don't give a shit. This is just content. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck about AAA, particularly AAA, because they still haven't found a spot for that a media deal for AAA to land in. And that's something that they are looking for. Trust me, they are looking for it. And in the meantime, NXT, well, NXT is getting worse. It's just getting worse. Despite the fact that they do have extremely talented people on there. You know, talked about it a bit last week about Kendall Gray, right? Was it last week or Monday? No, it was Monday. Talked about it on Monday. Kendall Gray, everyone says she's fantastic. She's great. And she is. She's very, very good. She's very, very good. You know, I agree with Dave Meltzer's assessments of her, even though I think he kind of goes a little bit overboard. But like right now, she's the most compelling pro wrestler that they have on NXT. But you and I both that they are going to beat that out of her. You know, whatever makes her special as a pro wrestler, whatever makes her really, really good, that's going to get squished out of her before she makes it up to main roster. And she's going to be she's very likely going to be a shadow of what she used to be, because they're not training anyone else to wrestle like her. They're not training anyone in NXT to wrestle like Kendall Gray, who just has fucking naturals at it. She's just very good. Out the door, she's tremendous. She's picked it up. She's just like a natural. That's all there is to it. She's just a natural. But look at how they trained. Look at how they trained Tiffany Stratton, right? Who's so many people was like, oh, she's going to be a star and whatnot, and she wasn't. She was athletic, you know, didn't blow you away, but she was very, you know, solid, competent, a good wrestler. And then she goes up to main roster and she's regressed. Look at how they trained Sol Ruka. Hey, do your flashy moves so that you can go viral. But then everything in between is absolute junk. And it's particularly glaring now that she's on main roster. Oh, but Warren, there's a working standard nonetheless in WWE. Yes, I agree, but it's in the mud. It's not that high. And people like Stratton, who has a lot of charisma, are able to transcend whatever weaknesses they have in their game. But someone like Kendall Gray, like from what I've seen right now, like she's a wrestler. Like she wrestles. They don't want wrestlers. That's not what they want. So no, what's going to be your gimmick? What's going to be your thing? They're going to desperately look for a yeet for her. Just like they finally with that they got with Io Sky, right? The head point thing. She was going nowhere until they found that. Desperately looking for that. They're workshopping that every day. Anyway, larger point is that WWE is just, it throws these promotions, their brands under the bus like this because they just want to they want to make sure that AEW doesn't gobble up all of the attention. It's just as simple as that. And it's going to be very, very hard for at All Out this year to do that because your main event is Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. It's going to be extremely difficult to not do that. Now, when it comes to All Out and stuff, I mean, like I said, I think that part of this, in this circumstance here, is to sort of fuck with the business. Because again, like I said, you've got a huge contingent of Lucha Libre aficionados in Chicago that might just go to this. I might just head on up. So it might do a dent. So what do you do then? What do you do to counter this? Do you call the Lutheroths and say, hey, do you guys want to do an afternoon show here in Chicago? And I will fly your guys in. And we'll have ourselves a nice 2-hour Lucha Libre spectacular here in the afternoon. I mean, you got to start flexing your contacts here, Tony. There's ways to counteract this pretty simply, too. Here's another way to counteract this. Book Kyle Fletcher versus Mystico for the international title and have Mystico win the fucking title. There's another way to counteract that. For All Out. Why not? I'm chock full of ideas, Tony. My DMs are open on Blue Sky. No, but seriously. But seriously, if we're being honest here. If I'm Tony Khan and I'm like, oh yeah, they're fucking with me, I'll fuck back. Don't forget, Tony Khan is a billionaire. So if he wants to fly in, 20 odd guys to come have a couple of matches in the afternoon of All Out, make it a party. I was gonna say fiesta, but then I was like, that's probably, people will probably think I'm trying to be racist, but I'm not. But bring some people in, have a nice little CMLL event in the afternoon, and then in the evening you do your AEW thing, sell some combo tickets. Hell, go full on Lucha Libre traditional setups and do the fucking match outdoor for free. And have people throw money at the end into the ring. Why not? The cool thing with Tony Khan is that he has the money to do just about anything. He could do whatever the fuck he wants. Why not? All right. They want to fuck with me. I'm going to fuck back. That sounds weird. But I would absolutely 100%. And Tony, God, sir, if you're listening to me right now, 100%, I am booking Mystico on All Out, and he's fighting for a top title. And whatever top title he's fighting for, he's winning it at the end of the day. Because unless then in AAA, unless Pero del Mal actually starts stabbing people, like stabbing people, there will be no bigger headline in the world of Lucha Libre in Mexico than Mystico winning a top title in AEW. Trust me. And that's the way you do it. That's how you play back, right? I know Tony takes more of an attitude of like, oh, they can do whatever they want to do type of thing, right? That's what he says publicly. And I'm sure on the inside, privately, there's a bit of him of these fucking cunts, right? Don't do something about it. Do something about it. Anyway, it's shitty. It's WWE. I don't know what else you want to hear. It's straight up what the typical in their playbook. You know, but you know the new element here to point out is that they are running the same day, same city. This is definitely constructed to eat away at some ticket sales locally in Chicago. I don't think it will have an impact overall for pay-per-view buys and whatnot. Historically speaking, whenever WWE has done this for against AEW, it has never worked in WWE's favor. They just want the attention. They want the media attention. They don't want AEW holding up all the headlines. That's why they're doing it. But this time here, this Worlds Collide thing, it's doubly shitty. It's just doubly shitty because of the live event component. That's all. So, of course, we're going to keep an eye on this as it progresses and we get closer to the event. But, you know, like, you know, the WWE, you know, they don't care about AEW, right? And so on and so forth. They don't care. You know, AEW, oh, they're not really competitors. Oh, this is just another coincidence. I don't know. We don't look at the calendar. You know, we don't look at the calendar. That's what Paul Levesque is going to say, is that, oh, we don't look at the calendar, just like we don't look at lawsuits. You know, it's like, you know, don't pay attention to this stuff. We just do our thing. We just want to go out there and do what we do, because it's what we do. This is what we do. What we do. What we do. I'm going to stop now because I could probably do this for another 3 minutes. That's what we do. Anyway. It will be interesting to see how NXT pay-per-views do on CW next time, because if the number is better, it means they lost viewers to AEW and the ESPN simulcast was a non-factor. Wait, the CW pay-per-views aren't simulcast on ESPN. They're not. The CW ones are not simulcast on ESPN. I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure it's just the main roster ones, because the NXT ones were in a separate bundle. That's why they didn't follow with the transfer to ESPN, and they stayed on the Peacock. And I think WWE was kind of expecting ESPN to pick up the NXT pay-per-views, PLEs, but then ESPN went, nah, we're good. We're good with your current slop. We don't need any more. Your current slop ain't quite doing it for us, so we're not going to go add some more. Plus, listen, this CW Sunday night, no one watched. No one watched. It cratered. It was a bad TV rating for NXT. Kendall is going to be a new Lyra or Bailey. She won't be pushed on main roster. Not if this is her gimmick. Not if the gimmick is she's a good wrestler. Which is why I'm saying they're going to beat it out of her at some point. Because otherwise, her destiny is to become the next Natalya. And she's a much better wrestler than Natalya on top of that. Sad thing is WWE's bad behavior to their partners hurts wrestling promotions looking for media deals. True. I'm sure CW will now think twice before dipping their toe into wrestling. This is absolutely 100% correct. Same with Fox. Fox got absolutely burned. Fox got absolutely, look, of course these were all rumors, right? But you remember how close, how huge the rumors were of, the rumored Shockwave, AEW Shockwave show ending up on Fox, and there were some leaks and people that were doing all sorts of innuendos, and then all of a sudden, poof, nothing at all. Why do you think that is? Because they got fucking burned with WWE. With WWE over-promising and under-delivering, and WWE not giving a shit because they got all the money. And it's exactly how WWE acts with their fans. It's the same thing. It's going to be the same thing with their fucking club WWE. $100 a year for you to get special merch drops and early access to tickets. Oh, great. You're giving me the chance to spend more of my money. Thank you, WWE. Thank you so much. I'm going to spend money for the opportunity to spend more money. Wow. It's fucking, it's microtransactions in a fucking video game. You spend, you buy a $70 game, and then they're asking you to drop down $10 a month for the fucking monthly pass or whatever. The same fucking thing. I can't wait till Yeats gets inducted into the Hall of Fame. And he's a guy who will probably get both. He'll get inducted with the tag team, and then he'll get his singles induction, and then it'll be a 2-time Hall of Fame induction. Did you hear Mox's dig at the WWE Hall of Fame at the on Dynamite this week? When he's with Wheeler Yuta and Dan Garcia in the first segment, getting them ready to go fight Cage and Cope, right? And he says something to the effect, look, I don't care. He said something to the effect, I don't care what kind of Hall of Fame they're in. Like, clearly saying, like, WWE Hall of Fame is meaningless. It doesn't mean shit. I don't care what kind of Hall of Fame they're in. You just go out there and beat their ass. It was something that I found was a great burn. Just a slick one-liner there. Slam Hub Wrestling, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. How about do Ospreay versus Mystico for the main event? Closing with closing Angel Mystico putting plastic bag on top of Billy's head, enjoying the Death Riders. That is some crazy booking. I fucking love it. Yeah, look, doing Will Ospreay versus Mystico as the main event is awesome, but I think you need Mystico winning a title to really stick it, to really make this important. I agree. I'd like Mystico to be on par with Okada, power scaling in AEW at the very least. At the very least. We've mentioned this previously, but I think it bears mentioning again. The AEW fans are not going to take Mystico as seriously as they should if all he does is just hang around and, on the mid card fighting with the conglomeration and stuff like that. That's not where he belongs. And so the AEW fans will never understand, what is the big deal with this guy? Oh, sure, he's a local hero. He's a local babyface. We get it. But yeah, at the very least, he should be on the same power level as Okada. AEW really needs to work on its power scaling. Can't work for the All-In match. It'll be interesting. The post All-In AEW will be very, very, very interesting, to say the least. AAA shows at least have solid wrestling. A new attempt at counter-programming AEW with a show that may not be terrible. I have not been watching AEW, AAA, so I cannot speak on the level of wrestling. I have no idea. I'll take your word for it. Question: what would AEW need to book as the all-out main event for you to pull up the AAA YouTube channel? Oh my God, it would have to be. Oh my God, it would have to be an absolute disaster of a main event. It would have to be. They'd have to book. They'd have to book Dante Martin versus John Silver. It's the main event, and they're like, all right, it's fine. Let's go see what the other guys are doing. It would really have to be something absurdly, something so absurd that no one in their right mind would ever do. Oh, you meant putting Yeats in the actual Yeats into the Hall of Fame. Okay, all right. That's funny too. That's actually funny. That's actually, well, isn't that what they've started doing that, right? They've started adding Hall of Fame moments, right? Haven't they started doing that this year? Something to that effect. The Hogan Andre slam and stuff like that, the Hell in a Cell bump. Well, they probably won't now that Mick is gone. Matches? No, also it's matches. Okay. AAA show going to be main evented by Dirty Dom versus El Grande, but it'll probably be that's probably the main event that AAA fans want, right? The wing of immortal experiences. All right, how about a bit of contract news? We've got TNA wrestlers that are out the door once again. Brian, we're reading this article off the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer. Brian Alvarez reported on Thursday that Sinner and Saint are no longer with the promotion. TNA has since confirmed the news, writing in an email, quote, TNA Wrestling has come to terms on the release of Sinner and Saint, effective immediately. We wish them the best in their future endeavors. If you're sitting around going, who? Well, you're not alone, because they've been in purgatory ever since the change in management, and it's only now that they decided to release them. Sinner and Saint, Judas Icarus, and Travis Williams have not wrestled for TNA since the March 6th taping in College Park, Georgia, where they lost to Matt and Jeff Hardy in a match that aired on the March 12 edition of Impact. The team debuted in TNA in May 2024. They are the latest in a string of departures from the company that includes former TNA World Champion Steve Macklin, Tessa Blanchard, Mike Santana, and Eric Young, as well as Mila Grace and longtime backstage figure Tommy Dreamer. Up next for TNA Wrestling, the promotion has 2 taped episodes of Impact that will air before it returns live from the Liacouras Center in Philadelphia on Thursday, July 30th. TNA will return to the venue the following night for a television taping. Look, even Josh Alexander, from his rehabilitation back home in Sarnia, I don't know where he lives. I don't know where he lives. Maybe he lives in Windsor, actually. Yeah, he even tweeted out, he's like, all right, you've been caught in purgatory for the past 18 months, boys. It's time to shine. He really liked these 2 guys, and look, best of luck to them. I think anyone who gets released from TNA these days is a blessing. I think it's a blessing. So Sinner and Saint, at the very least, now they've captured a lot of people's attention. I'm sure that a lot of folks didn't necessarily know who they were. I had heard of the name, but I've never seen them wrestle, so I really can't say. By the way, Mike Santana, heavily rumored to be to show up at the Saturday night's main event featuring Danhausen versus the guy with the big head, like with the JD McCullough. who legitimately has a very big head. Mike Santan is allegedly going to show up. But TNA, man. TNA doing TNA things again. You just can't stop the TNA. Because you can't, you won't, and you don't stop. But like, there's one thing. Yeah. There's one thing I want to talk about. I'm going to take the opportunity here to talk about something that I had heard about and just like in passing, and it kind of slipped my mind. And then I heard Joe Lanza talk about it earlier today, I think, on some audio that he did. And it's about TNA being in the midst, as he calls it, a ratings crisis, right? Because I don't know if you know this, but for the past 2 weeks, TNA Impact on Thursdays on AMC, for the past 2 consecutive weeks, we have no data for their ratings performance. And the reason why is because they got knocked out of the top 100 list of Nielsen shows, Nielsen tracked shows. So that means that the usual aggregators, the sites who get this information, Brandon Thurston, Dave, they don't have that information. No one has the information. All that we know is that TNA, for the past 2 weeks, the ratings have been so low that they haven't been tracking. And that's newsworthy. That's a big deal, because they are on a cable network that is in millions of homes across the United States. And the ratings, they're doing so poorly in the ratings that it doesn't show up. Now, I'm not going to go through all of Joe's findings, his own research in detail. I highly suggest you subscribe to the flagship Patreon, and so that you can have access to this audio that he did. It's behind the paywall, and it's really, really good audio, as it is typically the case that Joe does. And in this circumstance here, look, he looked at all the numbers for a while to try and make sense of all of this. And here's the shape of it. Okay, not every, like I said, I'm not going to break down as a spreadsheet all the data that he worked through, but here are the data points. TNA on AMC had a genuinely strong, unusual growth arc from its debut in January this year through April, because we all expected, as it is most of the time with pro wrestling shows, to score a really big number out the gate and then slowly dwindle into oblivion. But it wasn't the case with Impact. They actually showed growth. The peak was in April at 255,000 viewers and a 0.04 demo. Since then, however, there's been a steady erosion through spring sports, the NBA playoffs, the NHL playoffs, and a rough June marred by the World Cup. And now the last 2 weeks falling outside of the Nielsen's top 100 entirely happens for the first time since the move to AMC. So he lands the comparison that AMC has nearly double the households that Access TV had in 2022. But TNA's recent bad weeks are basically matching Access' best weeks from back then in 2022. Now, why are we going back to 2022? Because there were Access stopped sending data. They were no longer subscribed to Nielsen. They stopped sending data. So there was stuff where it's like, well, we just don't know. So despite having double the households, TNA is basically matching the best ratings of Access best weeks, the best ratings of the best weeks at Access right now. Historical precedent back in 2022 and 2023 shows Impact cratering really, really hard once the NFL Thursday games start, often disappearing from the top 100 for the rest of the year. Guess what's happening in about 2 months? Guess what's happening in 2 months from now? I'll tell you. The NFL is starting back up again. So if it's bad now, you just wait for Thursday Night Football. So the question that Joe has here is the following. It's more of a thought. Is the last month that we just saw here a temporary dip due to the World Cup, playoffs and whatnot, or has TNA broken the habit viewing pattern of people tuning in on Thursday nights to watch their wrestling? Have they already broken that pattern with its own audience, which is the case that happens once the NFL season starts off? So if they already started now, it's not going to get any worse. This is what he's positing, is that it's not going to get any better, I should say, once the NFL starts back up again. So Joe essentially laid out all the receipts, makes perfect sense. Again, I'm not going to go through all the details, but these are his big talking points. I can't stress enough for you to go and subscribe to get the full picture in complete detail. Now, as it comes for me, when I listen to this, I'm like, okay, I've got some things to add. I've got some extra thoughts that maybe break out of the realm of data here and into things that we can observe as pro wrestling fans. The first thing here that comes to mind when I look at all of this is AMC has to be uncomfortable with this situation. They took on this show for a reason. They took on this show. The reason they took on this show was not to disappear from the top 100 by month 6. I don't know much about television, being a television executive, but I'm pretty sure that they were not counting on TNA to be knocked off the top 100 6 months into their deal. I mean, there's got to be rumblings. They cannot be happy about this. There's no way. There's no way they've been happy about this for a while. These ratings that they've had stink. And yes, they had the peak in growth in April, but it's all been downhill since. It's just like, to a degree, there's something worse than stuff like we were talking about previously with the CW and how WWE doesn't seem to care about NXT on the CW and whatnot. It's kind of it's a situation where AMC gave these people, this promotion, TNA, prime real estate. And like, give it your best shot. And TNA clearly has never given it its best shot. All TNA has done throughout is beat TNA, is lull TNA the whole way through. It's just, just an embarrassing series of events. There's no buzz around the show. Yeah, and I say embarrassing from day one. From the moment we all sat here on stream to watch party the first show, the first show on AMC. Just one of the worst television shows you could have ever watched. That never improved. There never seems to be any kind of improvement. Decisions that baffle everyone. And a roster that has no stars. And you can't call yourself a top show, a top destination for the network when there are no stars. There's no, who are the stars of TNA wrestling? Who are the people that you will tune into? Let's take a look at the TNA roster. Instead of wondering, instead of sitting around going, well, I wonder who, I wonder what. Here. Let's have a little look-see here. The championships. The top people, the people who should be putting the butts in seats, right? Nick Nemeth, nice guy. Have nothing against Dolph Ziggler. But Dolph Ziggler has no case for being a draw. Ever. Zaya Brookside, Cedric Alexander, Mustafa Ali, the Hardys, and Rosemary and the Bunny. And these are the first people that you see here. Look, the Hardys are stars. I don't think anyone doubts that. The Hardys are the true superstars, not in the WWE's definition, the Oxford Dictionary definition. They are the true superstars of this promotion. But they're also what? 50? Pushing 50? Like there's only so much you can do with the Hardys still, right? Like at some point, you have to be able to use the Hardys to create new stars. Where are these new stars? When I look at this here, I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 former WWE wrestlers. Because yes, you will recall Zaya Brookside did wrestle in NXT UK specifically. I see 6 former World Wrestling Entertainment wrestlers. And not outside of Zaya, not exactly the youngest, the youngest flowers in the bush. You know, Rosemary has to be getting up there too. Not quite sure. Let me take a look here. Oops, I didn't do that. Hang on. There we go. How old is Rosemary Wrestler? She's 42. I mean, not disastrously old. But, we're not, not spring chickens anymore. Let's look at the rest of the roster. Let's look at the rest. It's like, what is a steal? Like, anyway, it doesn't matter. AJ Francis, right? And if there's, at this point, you'd be better off pushing AJ Francis. Anyway, Alicia Edwards, Ali, you just talked about her. Ashby Elegance, always been a dud. BDE, that's the streamer guy, right? That apparently he's picking up wrestling quite easily, and there you go. Bear Bronson had some buzz for a while once he left once he was out of AEW, he had some buzz. Now it's like, I don't hear the Bear Bronson buzz, and I would love to hear the Bear Bronson buzz because I think he's doing a great job reinventing himself. But it's not going to happen in TNA. Brian Myers, what are we talking about? Cedric, we've mentioned. Chris Bay, we don't even know if he'll wrestle again. The SWAT, shut up, I'm talking. And you have the righteous. And here's what I love about this roster page. Just to fill it out more, to make it look like there's more people here, tag teams and units will have their own and individual entries. So Bunny and Rosemary will have their tag team entry and their individual entries as well. The system, if we could look, just go right ahead. The system, everyone in the system will have their individual entry, plus Myers and Bronson, who are a tag team, will have their own entry as well. Same with the Righteous. So you've got Dutch and you've got Vincent, and you've got them individually as well. Matt Hardy, he's got his tag team with his brother Jeff. Anyway, like there's, who are the people here that you turn to and you go, here are our stars. Here are the people that we are going, the exciting people that we are going to push. It ain't the Drifter. You know what? I'd give Fabian Aichner a go, but they don't seem interested in doing that. Jody Thread's been around forever. Like, she's getting up there in age too. The hell is JDC still doing there? And of course, I mean, this is the guy everyone points to, Leon Slater. But they're not doing jack with Leon Slater. They could have done lots of jacks with Leon Slater, but they're not going to do anything with him anymore because his contract is coming up. So they've decided to just not push him, not do anything with him. Whereas they could be doing interesting things. But no, instead they're going to give airtime to M. by Elegance and Mara Sade. And Indy Hartwell. And Briley. And Santino Marella. You know, all of this is, you see how deep the problem goes? Like, there's no depth here. Where are the stars? Where are the people that you lock into every week where you're like, hell yeah, I have to see this person wrestle, get into things in this company. Like, I honestly don't understand. Like, this is part of the problem. It's part of the problem. Even if you wanted to say, hey, they might actually have a fighting chance here. You know, they had their fighting chance to build an audience before we got to this situation here. Before we got to the point where they're being knocked out of the top 100 because of the World Cup, and they might not be able to regain those people, especially with the NFL around the corner coming in for another season. They had the opportunity to create an audience, to create buzz, to make this show interesting, but they didn't. They didn't. They just continued doing the most contrived, pretend, grab-ass WWE shit possible. And it just lost people. Just naturally, people looking at this and going, hey, you know what? This shit stinks. And we're going to go watch anything else on Thursday nights. As you should. And yet here we are. You know, they're 2 weeks out of the top 100. And there's barely a peep. There's barely a peep. There's barely anything. You know, if I want you to think about something here. I want you to think about something. If AEW had spent 2 consecutive weeks out of the top 100, there would be wall-to-wall coverage, hot takes, emergency podcasts, Eric Bischoff doing 24-hour streams about it. You know, the AEW is collapsing, pieces everywhere. You know, I've talked about it before, and you know, I hate to frame it in this type of situation, but it's crazy that the media that spent so much telling us about how TNA was going to be the number 2 promotion, that once they got a TV deal, they were going to be the number 2 promotion, that they were in a great space to become the number 2 promotion, and everyone is fucking quiet now that it's falling apart, now that it's not living up to its expectation. They're not saying a goddamn word. How much reporting, chat, legitimately, have you seen on TNA falling out of the ratings 2 weeks in a row? They will have articles every time, every single opportunity when AEW has when Brendan Thurston and Dave Meltzer put out the ratings. You get the little thought pieces, and the headlines will always indicate. When the ratings are down, AEW substantially down from last week, you know, a 2-week low. They'll always put that to the forefront every single time. You know, yes, they'll report when the ratings are good as well. Don't get me wrong. But the point is that they report every time, and they do the same thing with WWE. But TNA, zilch, zero, silence, nothing. There is no reporting. And it is so incredibly hard to not say there's a double standard when you look at this kind of shit. It's really fucking hard. When the 2 other promotions, week in, week out, are reported upon, and there's always people doing thought pieces on AEW and its viewership, and you know, and talking about, how can they attract the casuals? Because yes, you know, I talked about it not that long ago. Yes, there has been how do we attract the casuals talk in 2026. Could you fucking imagine how much time and energy and bandwidth would be spent on articles and videos and essays and video essays and reels, shorts, TikToks, all of that energy spent into the world collapsing around Tony Khan. Now he got bumped out at the top 100, and it's not even breaking any type of news outlet proper. Nothing's been talking about this. Absolutely no one has been talking about this. And it's fascinating. Here's the counter argument. This is what I'm convinced the counter argument is. Like, Warren, no one cares about TNA. Well, okay, but you're still, if you're a news site and you report news, like, I could tell you, well, listen, no one cares about, I don't know, minor league baseball, but the local news is still going to cover it, right? Even though I say no one cares, it's still news. It's still a nationally broadcast wrestling promotion that has a deal a media deal, even though we don't know what the terms are, and has a media deal with a major cable broadcaster. I know that's not exactly the term, but bear with me here. And they are failing out of the ratings. How it goes beyond no one cares about TNA or not. And if you're sitting there telling me, well, no one cares about TNA, then what the fuck were you doing over the past 12 months to 18 months regurgitating everything that was coming out of these pundits and grifters and whatnot who kept saying, TNA is going to be the number 2 promotion in the United States. You just wait. You're going to see they're in a great position to do that. Isn't it interesting that now that there's no more NXT involvement in TNA, suddenly the news cycles don't talk about it anymore either? Isn't that interesting? Again, I hate to be a conspiracy guy and say, and point to very odd behavior and try to make a 1 + 1 here. But we're at a point, ladies and gents, we're at a point here where I've seen these patterns so often. I fucking really do sound like a conspiracy theorist right now, but I have seen this happen so many times where WWE gets coverage, it attracts the attention, and then whenever WWE loses interest, whenever something is not interest, then it just disappears. Then just poof. But isn't that interesting that all of these sites that were promoting TNA really, really hard while there was the talent exchange with NXT, and we're talking about TNA being the number 2 promotion, has a really good chance it could get right up there. Nothing. They stopped talking about it when WWE ejected itself from this talent exchange. I mean, even Santino's daughter is back, right? She's not even doing things in TNA anymore, right? She was the last one. That talent exchange is done. That's finished. So now there's no reason to talk about it because there's no more WWE involvement. And that fucking sucks. I mean, that's how I read it. How else are you going to read it? Because if you tell me, oh, no one cares about TNA, that's a cell phone. If you were one of these people who were promoting the idea of TNA being the number 2 company, or if you were covering TNA while NXT was there, and you're like, the minute NXT is gone, we'll stop covering it. The minute they stop doing any talent exchanges, there's no more Trick Williams on the Thursday Night Impact or whatever, and as soon as that, I know Trick Williams I don't think he was ever on Thursday Night Impact. It was on the old show. Bear with me here. It's really odd to me. Because this is news. This is very interesting. Because as Joe pointed out, we're halfway through the deal here. We don't know what the terms of the deal are. Is it a year? Is it 2 years? Is it 3, 4? We don't know. But usually, as it was the case with AEW, some contracts get renegotiated when a year comes up and stuff like that. And when AEW's contract got renegotiated, they were taken out of the ad split and were given a full-on media deal, right? Are there going to be renegotiations? Is there going to be a way for AMC to get out of this deal if they're not satisfied? Point is that coming up, there is a very strong chance that TNA, and regardless how funny you think TNA is. TNA, which is a nationally broadcast cable TV, I should say, national cable broadcast television program, might be on the outs, has the potential to be out on the outs with its company, with its media partner. It has that potential. We don't know exactly. We're not sure because we don't know what the components of the deal are. But they are probably going to get fucking slaughtered during the NFL season. There's a very why do you think Tony Khan moves his pay-per-views from Sundays to Saturdays during the NFL? He knows better. Fucking knows better. He knows not to fuck with the NFL. It's not just, oh, I respect the NFL. It's like, no, the NFL is going to chew up my audience. He's not a dummy. He knows this. He understands this. This has been, look, I don't want to do postmortems on TNA when I didn't want to do postmortems on TNA when it's still around, when it's still kicking. But I mean, the amount of mismanagement that just blew. If all of this is destined to be doomed, the amount of terrible decisions that led to TNA blowing this opportunity is, well, classic TNA. That's all there is to it. But as far as the coverage goes, I'm completely blown away. I'm completely blown away that this is not a bigger story. Where's the coverage? Where's the concern? Everyone was ready to crown this promotion the number 2 in America not even all that long ago. And now, are you embarrassed? Are you ashamed? Are you ashamed that you decided to back a terrible pony? Were you all enamored by seeing NXT people showing up there and you're like, ooh, you know? And since WWE cannot do any wrong in the minds of most wrestling media, all your eyes were sparkly and shining and you got this nice tingly feeling up and down your spine. You're like, well, see, it's not just AEW and New Japan anymore. Now we get that too. Mm-hmm. Now that they're gone, you don't care anymore because now it's all about the AAA. Now you're all Perros del Mar fans, right? Right? You all know the deep history with Pero Aguaya, right? You all know, you're all fully aware of that. You can all school me on it now, right? Sorry, it's another glaring L for wrestling media. It's, you know, I can't believe they suddenly got amnesia for this kind of stuff. Anywho. JD from NY 2025 promotion of the year, TNA. Was that his promotion of the year, really? I appreciate his commitment to the bit. Marasade too fly, though. She stinks. You know, she's a good-looking lady, but she stinks. Do you think Leon Slater could go to AEW? I think he could not go. How about that? I'll put it to you this way. As much as people figured that Leon Slater was a shoo-in to go to WWE once his time with TNA was going to be up. I don't think it's that much of a done deal anymore. I don't think it's as clear cut anymore. Do they still feel like the number 2 promotion in the US? They feel like something, all right. The only person I've ever heard any positive buzz around this year is the tall elegance girl and Mustafa Ali. The only positive buzz I've heard is around Mike Santana and how badly he was booked. Now that Icarus and Williams are gone, there are legit only 4 men's tag teams in TNA. The Hardys, the Righteous, the Great Hands, and the System. Good for them. That's a deep roster right there. Under the Silva era, I figure wrestlers that have done the match and realized it's a better deal to stay with the indies than to be on AMC television. And haven't they recently like started cracking down on wrestlers doing indie dates? Wasn't there like something where there was an indie wrestler who wanted to do a date, who had a date, and they were like, no, and you're like, what the fuck? If you're pulling us off, where's my compensation? Because I was getting paid here, and you're already paying us peanuts because you're not making any money off of this shit, right? Something to that effect, right? Anyway, that's where we're at right now. We got some other stuff on the docket, but we'll save it for Monday or something. We'll keep that one. We'll keep it for later. Are we going through? Is everything okay? See, it's doing it again. It's doing the same thing as last stream. I don't know if everything was smooth on your end. It was incredibly choppy on my end. And I wasn't even sure everything was going through. Look, if it was smooth on your end, that's all that matters. With me, I was like, this is like complete freeze frames. I'm like, are we dead? Is this... The feed did collapse? Okay. So that's a problem. At least I'm back. It doesn't want me to end. Aw, YouTube. You say, aw, stick around, Mr. Warren Hayes. Stick around some more. But we're going to wrap it up for tonight and this week on the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. And so stick around this weekend. We're going to be back doing the G1 Climax 36 daily coverage. That's going to be a lot of fun. Probably going to end up reviewing the first episode of Major Maple League Pros Lakens. Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Mayhem. I'm probably going to do a little review for that. Satisfy your bloodlust. And then we'll all be able to move on with our lives. But yeah, no, we'll be doing that. And then of course, I'll be back Monday for a stream. And I'll be back next Wednesday for the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on your podcast applications only. Then the Dynamite review next Thursday, another stream, and we'll be previewing the Retribution. I will never get it right. We'll be previewing the Retribution card next week as well. So busy. It'll be a busy fortnight in the Warren Hayes household as far as wrestling content creation goes. So hope hopefully you will all be around to enjoy that with little old moi. Thank you, everyone, for joining me, for hopping in, for coming to this thrill ride that we call the future. Hope you all had a good evening, a good Thursday evening. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have an even better rest of your week. Appreciate you all showing up. See you next time.